impact statement. I think you probably have pretty good grounds for that, and one of the grounds that I would offer for you to consider is the very grounds of growth inducement, which is specifically listed in the law. One of the interesting things with SECRA, they have this handbook that comes out about every 15 years. And it used to be about 12 pages, and I found out this afternoon it's now 200 pages when I tried to print it out. But I did you a favor, I printed out a page. And one of the issues that they raise here is what is an example of growth inducement. And this is supposed to provide lead agencies with an opportunity to say whether you should or shouldn't do an environmental impact statement. Your counsel can obviously advise you more, but just listen to this line. It says, the following is an example of how actions may induce growth-related impacts. The extension of public utilities such as sewer and water into an agricultural area previously not served by these utilities may encourage non-farm development and undermine the area's agricultural base. And when I first heard about this project, one of the things that I did was to go and see whether or not there was this potential for growth inducement as I understood it. And I realized that if your eyes are like mine, you can't see all of this, but if you'll trust me, and I apologize for folks behind me, the map shows, based on the town's land use map, essentially all the yellow that you see are areas that are undeveloped. In many cases, those are on your list slated for acquisition or protection. And what I've done is I've gone through and figured out the acreage. And you come up with, and these conservatively about 240 acres, could be a bit more, of large undivided parcels that have a direct connection to 25. They're right on the road, which means that if the pipeline comes across that road, you are entitled to tap into it as anybody else would be. Now, that's all fine. The concern is whether or not that promotes someone coming to you and asking for something that you otherwise would not have them asking for, and whether your comprehensive plan is in strong enough shape with a good basis and determination that provides all of the relevant boards with sufficient ammunition to say no if they ought to say no. And that's really what this is all about. As somebody said before, it's about sequencing. And if you do an environmental impact statement on your own accord as the lead agency. Now, you may be challenged, and maybe the Water Authority will say they're doing their own, and they're leading, but you got to figure all that out. Bottom line is, somebody should be doing an environmental impact statement. That impact statement should look at need. It should assess potential impacts. It should look at mitigation measures, and some of those mitigation measures may be things that you want to incorporate into your comprehensive plan. And essentially, you move forward with a pipeline when you know what the potential consequences are going to be, you know how you're going to mitigate those consequences, and you know what they mean going forward for your own comprehensive planning process. Now, if somebody argues about the time factor, I tried to find out today from the Congressman's office and other places what the time factor was on this grant to the Water Authority, and I don't know the answer. But that obviously could be a relevant issue that needs to be sorted out. There's another way to look at this as well, and the other way would be, on the town's own accord, you could impose a very specific moratorium on these, it's about 10 parcels, that would prohibit a change of zone until you get your comprehensive plan in shape and adopted, and the folks in Orient have confidence that basically what everybody wants to have as the future of Orient has the best chance of occurring. Nobody likes moratoria. I understand that. I've been at this for a long time. But the bottom line is, select group of small projects, if nobody comes in, you don't have a problem. If somebody does come in, then you're protected against what it is that people are concerned about, and you might be able to do that if, in fact, there was an agreement to have the pipeline move forward. In either case, what you're doing is you're getting the information and the planning steps ahead of the installation of a water main extension. And I've said from the beginning, and I'm an old health department guy, I understand the values of public water extension, and I understand that there is legitimate need, but I have also been at this long enough to see that growth follows the water line, and as a prior health department guy, the health department doesn't say no to a lot of projects, and I'm sure Mr. Jones would bear me out on that. They give a lot of approvals to a lot of things, and relying on them to say no is not the way to go. And this is the issue, of course. The Water Authority has its own responsibilities. The health department sees the world through its prism, but you all are in the driver's seat, I think, and if you step forward and either one of those avenues, I think you get to where most people want to be. And if you heard, everybody here who says let's slow it down is still saying public water could be okay as long as we knew what the consequences are. And many of the people who said they wanted public water said we understand the concerns that people have about growth inducement. So there's probably a lot more agreement here than you have in a lot of these meetings. And I just want to make sure we point that out, because that gives everybody, I think, a little better help going forward. But at the end of the day, remember what the SECRA handbook says. This is the, I think, quintessential example of growth inducement, and you have every right to look at what the potential impacts could be before you take action, and you'd be doing a service to the community in the long run. and not leaving some board down the road, who knows when, looking at a change of zone application and not being able to reach back and pull out a comprehensive plan that says, we want Orient to look a certain way for these 10 reasons, and just because there's public water is not reason enough to alter the zoning code. And by the way, I just want to point out, I realize that the board has turned down applications that have come before you, and that's great.